Splango, yeah! So how does the flow wolf catch up with his past to try to dig into the snow to try to find in the past how to discover a new realm of thought, a new realm of thinking to be able to uncover future pathways? Stay till the end to find out. Stay till the end to find out. So this is the flow wolf. We're talking about the flow wolf. The flow wolf. That is because the spelling is coincidental, but at the same time, we are visiting a town that I grew up in essence. This is Dink Tech Change for Games Studios. Dink Tech Change for Games. And I'm visiting a town that I once spent time in growing as a younger person in essence. And also this town, so to speak, happens to correspond to a place that in essence relates to finding yourself in the snow, because ultimately there is snow and it is easy to get buried within the snow because not a lot of people can understand what you're up to when you're within the snow. And so like the flow wolf, we are acting as the flow wolf because like actually a few days ago as well, we were connecting with a dog that was connected with a partial Labrador and a partial German Shepherd. So at the same time, that corresponds to, at the same time, the combination of the wolf and the Labrador dog, which Dink Tech is a Labrador Black Lab dog. So in essence, this was a white dog as well, and this is a white dog, and at the same time, snow is white. Snow is white, and at the same time, snow is possible in this region. Snow happens quite frequently in this region. So at the same time, I used to go snowboarding in this region. And at the same time, we're talking about delving into the snow to be able to dig up a spiritual past by diving into the spiritual metaphorical portal that is within the snow, by digging into the snow to dig out a portal in essence. And at the same time have the ability to leverage the conceptual wolf, the flow wolf, because in essence spiritual finances in essence corresponds to collaboration in essence, like, and so we're getting into the portal of the past, going into the past, because I grew up in this city that I'm in at the current time, and at the same time I've also been going to the local high school to be able to like rehash, like to dig up an ability to try to do work at this place, at this space, to try to get work done at this space, and it's like a co-working space at the current time as well, because it's not a high school anymore. And so ultimately it allows and offers like an interesting way to reflect on the past and dig into the past at the same time. Back in the days when I was snowboarding every day, almost on a consistent basis, during the time when I was going to the high school in essence, and at the same time it's a current little space to be able to catch up and try to come sort of full circle with Dink Tech Change for Games. Dink Tech Change for Games Studios, the company, the brand that's taken a while, it's taken a journey. It's like a symbol of a journey. And the flow wolf, like combining, collaborating, finding this flow wolf, finding this dog that we babysat a couple days ago. And that dog, in essence, showed us the way of the wolf, the way of the snow dog, the way of finding yourself in the woods, in the forest, in the snow environment, in essence. And at the same time, we used to watch a lot of snowboarding videos. And I used to snowboard and watch a lot of snowboarding videos. And the music and the sounds that corresponded to these snowboarding videos corresponded a lot to like rock music, punk music, and a lot of the music that we're trying to like use as influences today. At the same time, in developing new music, in developing new business music, in developing musicals in essence that are correspond to like flash mob musicals like I talked about yesterday in yesterday's podcast episode. But at the same time, we're trying to develop a little bit of a leadership process where in essence we have people to follow, where in essence there's structure and there's correspondence to like a business structure and a process flow in essence where it's possible to be able to follow some people. So we're sort of trying to get into the mind frame of developing upon getting a little bit of inspiration from EJ, from the Demon Hunters K-pop movie in essence, like from, that originated on Netflix, but then at the same time it turned into Hunters X, which is a K-pop sort of like 3-girl band, or a band that basically they formed a band after being able to do the music in essence as a producer, more or less, and like developing a high-ranking process and a high-ranking outcome from developing music within the movie making and the K-pop combination realm in essence, because she had a long history of being in the K-pop world. And so nonetheless, we want to fast forward into the current moment, and at the same time, trying to leverage the concept of movie making and at the same time music making, which in essence is something that we're trying to hack, like how to develop a distribution-like process that corresponds to the movie distribution process, because in essence, movie studios were ultimately fundamentally best at distribution, at content distribution. and handling money and making money deals, making production money deals. But ultimately, marketing and distribution of content is what they were functional in most prominently, in essence. So that's ultimately full circle how Dink Tech Change for Game Studios is trying to focus as a distribution, content management, systematization focused entity, like in a fundamental sense, in an originating sense, if you will. But at the same time, we're trying to develop, custom sounds, custom music, a custom brand that corresponds to electronic dance music, musicals, that corresponds to philanthropy, developing flash mobs around the world. And so ultimately, we need to have a branded product, a more branded, collective mindset. So ultimately, the concept of the day is to be able to connect with a manager who's also a mentor, and that would just be super interesting if there's anything that can come of it in theory, because ultimately EJ started with a mentor and it's just a little bit of inspiration nonetheless. If it's possible to be able to find anyone who could align as some kind of a mentor and manager, that would be whimsically peculiar and interesting as like the functional process to try to go forward in some fashion to develop more quality sound, in essence, that's more functionally aligned with some kind of a process that's in essence some way held accountable to this mentor and manager at the same time, in essence, because that is an inspiring process to have someone who knew what they were doing but at the same time was a mentor, because they were teaching and at the same time managing and then setting up hoops to try to jump through in hopes that I was capable of fulfilling some task to be able to continue to jump through hoops. And that to be my job, after all, is to just jump through the hoops and just hope for the best on the other side. And if nothing else, learn from conceptual failures, because probably it's just a lot of hoop jumping failures after all, with ultimately having a mentor being something that can hopefully feed into a bettering process and in a process that can enhance with time in the short and long term. But that's just speculative, because we have to find that person. We have to connect with these more inspiring people and more of an inspiring team to be able to try to align with various elements in different places around the world. But ultimately, going to Hong Kong was supposed to be a way to try to facilitate more of this team-making process, but I'm having a hard time getting out of town at the current time, but we'll have to see if I can make it work someday. But nonetheless, connecting and trying to network with people from the foundation of the high school, in essence, office space, if you will, in quotes, is something that has sort of been a corresponding focus in the meantime. We're trying to get down in this new, sort of a workspace to be able to have a little bit of separation, a little bit of concentration, a little bit of delving into the past and leveraging these, past mindsets of connecting full circle with these things that were imagined back when going to high school and snowboarding, and connecting the dots of developing different music making processes back in the high school days and back in the days of snowboarding, and just being inspired by the culture of snowboarding and flowing around the mountains, in essence, like a flow wolf, because in essence the connection to nature is in essence how we're trying to come full circle and bring this around to the current day by bringing this brand into nature, in essence, becoming one with the outside, becoming one with the outdoors, becoming one with all people, all humans, all humanity in society, by just trying to connect with the outdoors fundamentally as the first focus in terms of connecting with nature, to connect with all of humanity, in terms of the first focus towards leaning into a larger distribution process, a larger distribution focus for more attempting to connect with a wider connection of energy, if you will, in a short and long term sense. So it's just a matter of ultimately having these kinds of thoughts, and also acknowledging and making some sort of a mention that having depictions, having visualizations are in essence experiences. So if you experience the connection to humans, or the connection to a greater concept, that this is a real experience. This connection to a thought is an actual experience. It's not just a thought that comes and goes. If you feel it as though you can do math, and then one things equal other things, and you have both of those things, but they're in separate hands, and then you see the collective, what they can be when they're combined, in essence, and then you feel that. That's in essence an experience that speaks to spiritual finance, where you're realizing sort of the aggregate amount of different spiritual finance elements equaling something else. And that in essence is the realization of being able to make spiritual finance math by having these thoughts and realizations and developing spiritual finance math, because these are equations that you can do in your brain with certain spiritual finance assets that you have, such as trying to just like fundamentally connect based on experiences with all of humanity by being outside and being in nature, having that experience, and just through a thought that ultimately already you have that connection to all of humanity. In essence, that's an experience, even if it just lasts for 1 second, just one thought for 1 second. It comes in and out of your mind in essence, but you felt it for that 1 second, like you're trying to correspond it to future plans, if you will, and have that outside connection to just somehow facilitate to ongoing future methodologies that you already experienced, that's real, that's something that you encountered, that if you have that spiritual finance math, which is a deductive reasoning process to equate to a greater result of something based on past experiences that you've had, and then all those experiences can equal some other result of an inference, an indicative inference of something else that you can do, that you would be capable of doing. That growth is something that you can feel because of those past experiences adding up to some conceptual result that you feel like you're interested in participating in, or that you just had the thought that you've already participated in it to a certain extent because you've indicatively participated in all these other experiences that equal and amount to the same, in essence, additive or cumulative experience of all these other little things that you've experienced in the past to equal that greater feeling, that greater experience. And that thought that you had, that experience, that mental feeling of an experience of an aggregate interest coming together in one place, in one aggregate mindset of a realization, is reality. Even though it's just a thought that happened for one instance, it caused a feeling, and it was a feeling, and it was also an experience. So thoughts, in essence, are feelings and are experiences at the same time, and they're also a thing, and they're not nothing, they're not worthless, they are assets, they are mental assets at the same time in the same respect. And so ultimately, we want to try to move down the line and get into the K-pop world, and try to like connect with, or like not compete with, but like work alongside the K-pop world, in essence, for music making and production and such, by corresponding to the film industry. The film industry, the film mindset is the way to try to come, like, to work in a different way, but like hopefully come above in certain respects and certain metrics someday, which is kind of laughable to even hear myself say that out loud, but that's just kind of a joke that we're making to ourselves today in this podcast. But to have higher metrics in any of the K-pop groups, it's necessary to connect with the film elements. And I don't mean music videos, I mean like films, in essence, to combine films, which are also known as business music films, which are also known as philanthropy energy or philanthropy generation films, philanthropy energy generation musicals, in essence, are the ways that we're trying to connect in like a film industry sense, to be a music brand in the film industry sense, by also combining theatrics in the theater world, which is kind of a joke, but not really, because it's more like a film. It's more like the film world, but we're also leveraging the theatrics in the theater world and musical world, and then, all the other elements of musical music videos, in essence, but like corresponding mostly to the film industry first and foremost. We are the business music film industry. The new business music film industry is what I've called ourselves through edutainment. And so that, in essence, is how we are the flow wolf. That is how we're the flow wolf, because we're flowing in the snow in the mountains in the meantime. And at the same time, we used to flow in these mountains on a snowboard. And at the same time, we met with another dog who, in essence, was, part wolf, part shepherd, part German shepherd, and part lab. And so at the same time, that corresponds to, being a Labrador, a Labrador-related mascot dog, which is Dink Tech, in essence, and then corresponding to that wolf, that flow wolf, which also corresponds to the snow, which corresponds to looking into the past and digging into the past through a snow portal, and that full circle sort of message from the beginning of the podcast, in essence, where we're in essence trying to come full circle and connect with the flow wolf in a collaborative sense, to continue to try to dig into the film industry and find a mentor manager or mentor management. That's all for now. Bye. Thanks, Dink Tech. Bye. Peace. Bye.